Peace is at hand in the Middle East. A deal worked out between Israel and those barbarian Hamas terrorists. Wow, could it possibly have something to do with the new president about to take office here in America? Absolutely. Let's go through some of the highlights of the deal, though. First, what do we have here? We have a prisoner exchange, a 6-week ceasefire, 33 hostages released initially. This is going to be a phased approach. There are 3 phases in total, but this is how it starts. Let's go to the next slide, please. 600 trucks will be carrying aid into Gaza daily, and yeah, several Palestinian prisoners released. It's unclear how many hostages are actually in Hamas custody right now. A number of them have died, but we know a lot of them are still alive. Older people, children. It's absolutely horrific what they did. Dozens, however, are believed to be dead at this point, but dozens are alive, and American hostages are part of this. Here they are. American citizens held by the Hamas barbarians will soon be free. And you know why, right? President Trump winning the election on November 5th. That was awesome, and it changed everything. It changed the climate, it changed the climate of the world, the mood of America, the business community, you name it. And President Trump making his own people, giving them power, giving them authority. You heard of Steve Witkoff? He's kind of like a Trump guy in New York. He's a builder. There he is playing golf with him, the guy on the right. They worked it out. He's the special envoy for the Middle East. He's been working this deal, and President Trump has been calling the shots and setting the parameters from back here. Last week, this was a message that I think would encourage our adversaries to get their act together.
That all hell must be paid if they don't release the hostages.
You know what that means, don't you?
Well,
do I have to define it for you? Look, all
No, I know
hell
you're not
will
gonna
break out.
telegraph
If
what-
those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Can you elaborate?
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that.
This is brilliant strategy, brilliant diplomacy, brilliant negotiation, and it works. And he's right about October 7th, right? October 7th, I thought that was a date that was going to live in infamy, but people forgot that Hamas terrorists took over a rave where there were mostly girls and their boyfriends, and they went in there with these crazy makeshift airplanes, gunships really, and killed women and children. How can that be forgotten? And then they did more. They took hostages, the elderly, babies, teenage girls. It's just insane. And the way they treated them, throwing them in the back of a pickup truck like they were cattle or something like that. You saw the man standing next to President Trump. That is Steve Witkoff. These guys go way back. And here's Steve kind of talking about what it's like working for President Trump on this project and the latitude that he gets.
I think it's the president, his stature, what he said he expects, the red lines he's put out there, that's driving this negotiation. I don't know anyone who delegates better than President Trump. He gives us a lot of authority to speak on his behalf, and he exhorts us to speak emphatically. And emphatically means you better get it, you better do this.
You better do this. Can you think of, I don't know, Tony Blinken or Jake Sullivan saying, you better do this? No. It took a New Yorker, by the way, Witkoff and President Trump. And these negotiations were happening in Doha, Qatar, and they go into effect when? This Sunday, January 19th. That name, that date mean anything? It's the day before Inauguration Day. President Trump becomes president on January 20th, and we have a deal in this Israeli-Hamas conflict that goes back to October of 2023, 400-something days. You think the timing is coincidental? Of course not. You know what it reminds me of? January 20th, 1981, when our hostages got back. They left Iran at the moment President Reagan became president. How about that one? So You would think that President Biden would acknowledge that this was a President Trump operation, right? I mean, we all know that. The world knows that. He claims sole credit.
Thank you.
Folks, credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh, thank you.
Is that a joke? First question. Doesn't he get some credit? Is that a joke? You know, he didn't talk to his administration, or he's just so filled with hate. The State Department understands this would not have happened without President Trump, President-elect Trump. This is Matthew Miller, the State Department press guy.
When it comes to the involvement of President-elect Trump's team, it has been absolutely critical in getting this deal over the line. I don't know if it's unprecedented to have envoys from an outgoing and an incoming administration sitting at the same table negotiating a ceasefire agreement of this kind. But if it's not unprecedented, it's certainly unusual. And we, of course, thank the Trump team for working with this on this ceasefire agreement. We think it's important that they were at the table.
All right, awesome. Now somebody should go over to the White House and tell President Biden that he has to adjust his attitude. But maybe it doesn't matter anymore. He just gave his final speech as president. We may not hear from Joe ever again. More on that in a moment. The Middle East, let's face it, has been a problem zone for a long, long time. And it's interesting that President Trump is turning out to be perhaps the pivotal guy to bring peace, lasting peace forever. Well, think of this. President Trump is a Christian, but his daughter Ivanka is Jewish, Orthodox Jewish, I believe, modern Orthodox, married to Jared Kushner, and he has Jewish grandchildren. Donald Trump has Jewish grandchildren, and he may soon have Arabic grandchildren. His daughter, Tiffany, is married to that man right there who's supposed to be a great guy, Michael Boulos, I believe his name is. His dad is very, very influential. Boulos is Arabic for Paul. Family's from Lebanon. And I don't know, you know, Donald Trump, roots now, biology, if you will, blood relatives who are both Arabic and Jewish. Kind of interesting, isn't it? All right, back to Joe Biden's final speech, which wrapped up 40 minutes ago or so. It was, of course, a dud filled with a lot of gibberish and that whole America, one word, possibility. And he started off with this stuff.
She was built to sway back and forth to withstand the fury of stormy weather, to stand the test of time because storms are always coming. She sways a few inches, but she never falls into the current below.
He's trying to talk about, I don't know, he's no poet. You know what I mean? He tries this stuff all the time. Something about the Statue of Liberty. Here is a warning about, well, he doesn't mention the name, but he's talking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk. Wow, we finally get a billionaire who leans MAGA, and it's a threat to democracy.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead.
You know, whenever he talks about getting ahead and billionaires, and he seems to resent them, it's because he's not a billionaire yet. Musk and Trump, a match, in my opinion, made in heaven, and Joe Biden just might be jealous, a little bit envious. Joe got into the business of politics and power for himself. This is the first house he ever had, a dilapidated shack, back in 1970 when he first entered politics, the Newark, Delaware City Council. And when he left the vice presidency in 2017, he had all this stuff, all right? And he probably has a lot more stacked away somewhere. Back to the speech. There were a few things he did not talk about. And it's still kind of a great big mystery. So many things in his presidency, like the time they yanked him off the stage. Remember, he was going to be the nominee, and then he wasn't after that horrible debate. Although, actually, I get a big kick out of it. Every now and then I watch it. I recommend it. You can find it on YouTube.
I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump? I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Ooh, it really is something to behold. And for all the historic impact, by the way, Joe was terrified half the debate. He was always in awe and terrified of Donald Trump. President Trump never got enough credit for this because in one fell swoop, he took out the Democrat nominee. We've never seen anything like that. All right. And Joe, when are you going to tell us the real story? How did they get you to leave this debate, leave this race, when you were so committed, seemingly, to stay in it?
Well, let me say it as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race.
They want him out, but he's staying in the race. Who was trying to get him out? Nancy Pelosi? Sure. Barack Obama? I want to know. I want to know the whole full picture. I also want to know, and it didn't come up tonight, the loss in Afghanistan. Accountability, please, ever. We lost a war, and it's business as usual. Press barely covered it. The situation at the border. Joe, this is your legacy. This stuff right here. Oh, and also the Corrupt Act, I believe, in pardoning your son. You know, don't you realize what you did in that office? He complains about President Trump not being held accountable when he wrote his son a blank check immunity ticket right there.
No president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office. The president's power is not limited. It's not absolute, and it shouldn't be.
Well, he gave his son a full, absolute pardon all the way up until 2024, from back when he was vice president all the way to December of 2024. Very bizarre. Like, what kind of criminal activity could Hunter have been involved in all the way up until the end of his administration? Well, I know this is kind of criminal. His paintings, but you want to see something? You know, poetic justice, perhaps? The timing of it is amazing. All of his paintings went up in smoke. Yeah, they were burned in the LA fire. Can you imagine? They were in storage near the Pacific Palisades home of Kevin Morris. Now, I'm sorry about the fire and all the property and all the people and everything. I wish it only burned down this silly warehouse where those paintings were. Those paintings were obviously trash. Yet, somehow, because it's Hunter Biden and it's a way to get in touch with the president, the valuations were obscene, $75,000 to $500,000. And potentially, they are all gone. Now, they were stored near his bro, right? What's his bro's name again? Kevin Morris. Take a look at this guy, Kevin and Hunter. Very strange arrangement. That guy's an adult man in his 50s, I believe. Then out of the goodness of his heart, he loaned Hunter $5 million around that to pay his taxes. Is he ever going to get that money back? What kind of arrangement? And they haven't known each other that long. It's not like they went to college together. They met in like 2019. It is crazy. It is weird. But a lot of things are with the Bidens, right? Okay, back to peace in the Middle East. It is a great, great thing. And that's what happens when you talk like a lot of Republican presidents talk, from Eisenhower through Trump. This is a 3-word mantra that will never steer America wrong, in my opinion.
The world now respects America's policy of peace through strength. The United States is again the confident leader of the free world.
For 30 years, since the end of World War II, our strategy has been to preserve peace through strength.
In foreign affairs, I'll continue our policy of peace through strength.
America is fulfilling our destiny as peacemaker, but it is peace through strength.
Wow, peace through strength. So understandable, so clear-cut, so effective.